island inundated with feral horses, one that can't be stepped on safely because it's nearly completely covered in dangerous, venomous snakes. Here's 13 islands that are run by animals. But first, we'd like to throw a quick but still epic shout out to Nathaniel Miller for his comment on our biggest invertebrates on land video. Thanks for the kind words, and we'll try to keep up the good work for you. Hope you and everyone else out there enjoys the video. Queimada Grande. The shores and mainland of Queimada Grande are strictly off limits, with very good reason. The island, which lies nearly 100 miles off the coast of Sao Paulo, Brazil, is completely covered in snakes, and that might not even be an exaggeration. Biologists estimate that between 1 and 5 snakes per square meter exist on what has become known as Snake Island. And these aren't harmless garden snakes. They happen to be golden lanceheads, highly venomous vipers that produce a fast-acting poison that's so powerful it melts the flesh around their bite. The snakes live on migratory birds, unfortunate enough to land within striking distance. You might be alright, or even prefer to be shipwrecked with some of the creatures you'll find on some of these other islands. But Snake Island certainly isn't one of those places. Okunoshima. Speaking of places that wouldn't be so bad to be shipwrecked, relatively speaking of course, we present Okunoshima Island. Imagine staggering up the shores of this Japanese island only to be suddenly surrounded by furry, lovable bunny rabbits. The rabbits hide the island's sordid history that was for years hidden from the public's knowledge. Starting in 1929 and lasting through World War II, the Japanese army, under a veil of secrecy, produced some 6,000 tons of poisonous gas on Okunoshima. Reportedly, at the time, the Japanese went so far as to remove the island from maps of the area to ensure it remained under wraps. Today, tourists frequent the island, where they have the option to purchase treats for the lovable creatures. Parts of the land were used to build a tourist resort, complete with a golf course. Tours are given of the old poison gas facilities and old military ruins that dot the island. Rinca. Komodo National Park is comprised of a group of small islands in Indonesia. While the most obvious and well-known of these islands is Komodo Island, Rinca Island is equally as inundated with the fascinating lizards, which can grow to be as long as 10 feet. Here's a pair on the island ruthlessly attacking a helpless goat. The image is a stark reminder that the island's small population of people have to constantly be wary. Similar attacks as that goat experienced have also occurred with the small human population of Rinca Island, and have even been fatal. 5 scuba divers found themselves on the southern coast of the island in 2009, days after their dive boat had abandoned them. The group subsisted on oysters before they were found. Seal Island. Lying off the coast of Cape Town, South Africa, Seal Island, at just 5 acres in total area, is pretty easy to miss on approach. It has no beach and is completely devoid of vegetation, soil, or significant landmarks. But in researching for this video, it stood out like a sore thumb. That's because, though it may not seem physically possible, roughly 64,000 Cape fur seals call the island their home. At certain times, the large amount of seals inevitably attracts their main predator, the infamous great white shark. The sharks circle the beach waiting to pick the seals off. They launch themselves up from underneath the animals and jump out of the ocean with their helpless prey clutched firmly in their jaws. Assateague Island. If you're an avid lover of horses and haven't heard about Assateague Island, be prepared to add an item to your bucket list. Located off the coast of Maryland and Virginia, Assateague is a 37-mile-long barrier island, most notable for its beautiful beaches and coves, as well as its herds of majestic feral horses. Now, in case you didn't know, feral animals are descendants of domestic animals that have reverted back to being wild. These equines share the island with humans, who often visit the Assateague State Park to go hiking and camping. So just how did the horses end up there? No one seems quite sure, but it's likely that mainland horse owners of the late 17th century stashed the creatures on Assateague to avoid livestock taxes. Guess they were trying to disprove the old adage, nothing is certain but death and taxes. Big Major Cay. Located in the Bahamas, Big Major Cay is completely devoid of humans, but is home to a population of several dozen feral pigs of an unknown breed. How they got to the island is a complete mystery. Theories involve sailors, one saying that they were left to be cooked, but the hungry chefs never returned to prepare their meals. Others feel they could be the descendants of the lone survivors of a shipwreck long ago. Whatever the case, those visiting the island, which are usually people staying at the nearby Foul Cay Resort, don't care. They just know the pigs are totally awesome. They'll swim out to approaching boats, hoping for food that most willingly give up. If a boat gets too close to the shore, the animals will often hop in, hoping to fish out some food on their own. Oshima. Not only is Japan home to an island full of rabbits, but apparently there's also several islands, most notable of which is Oshima, that are filled with felines. Over 100 cats call the 1-mile-long island home. Despite the fact that Oshima boasts exactly 0 stores and is only accessible by one ferry that runs twice daily, tourists flock here to hang out with the adorable creatures. Reports state that the cats were originally brought in to deal with the island's mice. Their population exploded when humans began to leave in the early 2000s, leaving no one to prevent the cats from breeding. Tashirojima is another notable cat island in Japan. Cats here were brought in when the island raised silkworms for textiles. The human population brought cats to defend their lucrative worms from mice in the 1800s. Both humans and cats remain on Tashirojima, though felines outnumber Homo sapiens there 6-1. Cayo Santiago. American scientists in the 1930s got tired of chasing monkeys around forests in Asia and Africa to research their behaviors. So they decided to put 409 monkeys on this island, Cayo Santiago, which lies off the coast of Puerto Rico, in 1938, and simply let them live. In the nearly 80 years since, some 9 generations of rhesus macaques have lived and died on the island, providing researchers from the US and around the world with vital, fascinating insights into their nature. Their population on the island has grown to over 1,000 individuals today. Gough Island. As cool as this island is to learn about, you'd probably never want to visit its borders. It's a volcanic island that lies in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean. As you can see on a map, it's surrounded by nothing but blue. Remote and desolate, it's a very somber, lonely place, though you wouldn't be alone here. The South African National Antarctic Program built a weather station on the island in the 1950s. Ever since, a crew, usually numbering 6 people, are required to run the station. This makes Gough Island one of the most remote places on the planet that is host to a constant human presence. The island's dominating species are birds, thousands of them who flock here to breed. They are threatened by invasive house mice, whose propensity to feed on seabird chicks in recent years has put both the Tristan Albatross and the Atlantic Petrel in danger of going extinct in the area. A program to eradicate the mice is set to start in 2019. If that program goes according to plan, Gough Island will be mouse-free by 2021. North Brother Island. You may have seen this island in New York mentioned on videos about abandoned islands. It's become famous thanks to its old quarantine hospital, which can still be seen in a ruined state to this day. North Brother Island has been abandoned for years, and its main purpose today lands on this video you're watching now. Birds use the land as a giant nesting colony, and it's officially off limits to the public. Did you know that North Brother Island's hospital once held Mary Mallon, the woman who history dubiously remembers as being the country's first carrier of typhoid fever? Mallon would die in the hospital in 1938 after being detained there for years. She believed that she had been unfairly held, despite clearly carrying the disease the entire time. Miyajima. An hour from Hiroshima, Miyajima Island is most visually notable for its torii gate, which appears to be floating at high tide. There is a general agreement that the site is one of the most beautiful and stunning in the country. A happy community of humans and wild deer live on the island, sharing much of the land seamlessly. The deer on Miyajima have become accustomed to humans. They move around the same sites as tourists, and are even comfortable enough to sleep along human walking paths. With beautiful cherry blossoms, intricate shrines, the aforementioned friendly deer, and ryokan, or Japanese-style inns to spend the night, Miyajima is perhaps one of the top spots to take a date in the world. But that's just our opinion. Rund. On a map, the island of Rund is just another landmass off the coast of Norway, one of many. The island is home to around 100 people, bless their souls, but is more famous for its ridiculous number of birds, as well as several notable shipwrecks. Some 500,000 seabirds famously inhabit Rund, the majority of which are Atlantic puffins. The seas around Rund are likely littered with treasure. In 1725, the Akeren Dam, a Dutch vessel, was caught in a storm and went down on the north side of the island. Its 200 crew members and cargo, which included tons of gold and silver coins, were lost at sea. The wreck was discovered nearly 350 years later in 1972 by scuba divers. Over 1,000 pounds of gold and silver would ultimately be salvaged in the form of some 57,000 coins. The find likely made those scuba divers, who were allowed to keep 2/3 of it, very wealthy. Thanks everyone for watching. We have so much to offer on epic wildlife, so take a scroll down, won't you? Don't forget to subscribe, and we promise that we'll be back tomorrow with our newest video. And now, for our last entry, Christmas Island crabs. Though this may sound like some sort of exotic rare disease, it's actually a species of land crab that lives on Christmas Island, which sits in the Indian Ocean. For most of the year, the crustaceans inhabit the island's forests and remain out of sight. But at the beginning of the wet season, usually in October or November, the crabs migrate to the coast to breed. Millions of crabs moving at the same time turns the island bright red, a stunning sight provided by the wonders of Mother Nature.